actually one of the newer of the stack dryers. It's not the brand new, but it's not as old as some of the originals here. You can tell by the lack of buildup inside the drum. It doesn't even have many loads on it. Some of the issues we're having are these guys. I'm bringing this one out. I didn't pop this loose. They're just coming loose. Now, this is what happens. That's the support there. It's supposed to hold these wires that go to the motor, and it pops up inside of a little tiny hole up there. They break, and then all the force is transferred to the little green wire. And it bolts up right there. And then, of course, can't hold it, so it snaps. And eventually, the wires either break on the smaller sensor, because they're shorter and they take the strain, or the sensor that it's bolted to behind the motor breaks. And that is the main cause of the block motor code. You can also get it, sometimes it'll throw that code if a sock is in the pump, but normally the drum will be full of water when you get that. This one, the drum was empty, so it automatically pointed at that one sensor. You got to pull the motor anyway, so I just swap the whole thing whenever I do it. Here's the view with the motor off and the wire's still hooked up. So the wires come in. This point right here, we'll just let it slide back and forth. So all that vibration is pulling the guts out of that little sensor. And it breaks it. That sensor more or less has to do with timing and which direction the motor spins and whatnot, because it's a brushless motor. So it's being controlled by a computer. If it doesn't know what direction the motor's going, it shuts down. At a glance, these motors here are identical. I almost messed up myself, but they're not. See, here's the way this sensor is designed. Here's the way that sensor is designed and hooked in. Different. But if you swap the entire unit, it doesn't matter. So if I'd have came over here with that sensor, I'd have wasted my time. It's best, if you can, and it's available, just grab the whole motor. This white wire here snapped. So this situation just goes back to that crazy crap in the field. Now, common sense would tell you to just order a new wiring harness. Good luck. Wow. Look at that. See, that's another thing. You're going to find all kinds of weird things here in the field. That's the magnet. So what they've done is they put it in backwards. It should be facing the other direction, so there's not as much slack in the magnet wiring, because that is going to just be eaten. Anyway, this is what I've done about it. Cut off the white wire going to it. This is a piece of wire, at least the same size around as what I'm connecting to, and I'm going to hook that in and bypass, hook the plug in for the other two wires, but wire nut and then tape this guy down here. Leave as much factory as you can. It's okay to connect the sensor wire and this wire together because they connect right next to each other anyway. And you'll see, unfortunately, I had to cut off that little pin that kind of supports it. But you know, honestly, they're about junk because they don't last forever. That's what caused this problem, was that little pin failing. So something else I missed that you don't have to worry about with this design. See how there's a clip there that holds it? This design doesn't have that. I honestly hadn't even ran into this one before. This is kind of crazy because look how close the clearance is. Definitely make sure that you do that. I almost put that back in there without checking. I'd have been in trouble. Been a big waste of time today. Matter of fact, I'm going to put another zip tie on it just to be sure. Done. That'll keep the force from trying to shove those wires back through that. See, that does not need to be tight back there. That zip tie there does not need to be tight. Just keeping it from falling. Your instinct is to rush through. Rush. But you'll miss little things like this guy here not being popped down on the way. See? And you'd have been right back out. You got to take your time when something's messed up like this and really go through it. Otherwise, you're coming right back. And people will forget that you took a little too long on something, you know, that they think that you shouldn't have. They'll forget about that. They'll be like, oh, well, so-and-so fixed it. They'll forget that it took you a little longer. What they won't forget is if you have to keep coming back. They're not going to forget that. All right. That's almost like planned to fail. There's no way those pins would have held that kind of a bend with all the vibration that this thing handles. So, just as it is. And here we are washing again. No more error code. See how those wires are doing? Hardly even moving. That's great. It'll last a long time like that. I'll take the vibration off of them. Should be just fine now. Alright, now I can move on to something else.